matter. And we are actually on Saturn night and Venus hour. Venus ruling the ascendant at 8 degrees Libra, and the moon is applying to Rahu in Aries, ruled by is in this reception with 22 degrees Mars. Sun is left 22 degree and is in Libra, and Venus is releasing from the opposition with Uranus and is trining Neptune and sextiling Pluto. So first of all, we have right now the applying trine. Because Venus is in Scorpio, this is not giving something that is talismanic, but it's a good time to talk about um, the triple phase that's ruled by Venus decree, and that this is ALGOL, and bringing in notions of Spica, notions of Beta per se is going to be minima soon. And so this video is continuing on the series of videos that I made that pisses a lot of energies off, but it's actually very important to understand in order to sustain both economically, spiritually, which means to keep your sanity in a very practical notion, and as a society on the land. And this is very, very touching to areas like the North Africa and Libya. In 2027, you're going to have the eclipses. Underneath the soil, so entire Middle East, okay, because underneath the ground there are the statues of basically the serpent goddess, which is a goal. To some degree, in which society, I'm going to talk about Sedna and the notion of Sedna, the betrayal with Sedna and the betrayal with Medusa Gorgon, and definitely Netherlands, absolutely, which probably means entire Europe because they're underground, always underground infrastructure, and very likely rest of the world with the various goddesses and deities that are associated with this archetype. So, first of all, now that we got to why is it important, the Freemasons that pertain from the Falun Gong in China to the Foundation of United States, to the Rosicrucian, to the Rabobank, to the Brussels in Europe, to the Middle East, and to Africa. Okay, it's really global. And Muslim Brotherhood, which is entire, not just Middle East, but the East. Um, and those people are basically originally architects. Okay, so they were enslaved by, I think, the Khazarians, which were enslaved by the church and by the Vatican. Okay, and those are the people that would construct all of our structures, whether it's a school, a church, a house, office building, a municipality. Really, every structure, everything that you build would be constructed by the Rosicrucians, and then would be Illuminati and Masons. And whatever these people had to do, however these people saw the world, would basically be embedded, set in stone by the infrastructure. Okay, that means that whenever we are changing in society, we literally have structures collapsing. This is the time where Pluto is in Capricorn, but also in Aquarius. And those structures are buildings, as we see, in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Ukraine, and they are also structures underground. Okay, this is where, if you remember the war in Syria, and many monasteries were collapsing, and many religious structure collapse. Now, if we do not have a modern day understanding of Beta per se, which is Medusa Gorgon, and we keep to notions that are archaic or Christian or I don't know what, we really are a thousand feet backwards in advancement of humanity, sciences, understanding why something works or doesn't work, our expectation or view of civil life, and we basically are cooperating with a societal collapse. So Beta Per Se story was basically a story of a woman, a sensual woman, that her sexual boundaries were not respected. And she was raped in a monastery. Okay? Then she wasn't believed because the person who raped her was husband or partner of another goddess. Essentially, her head was turned into snakes, and she lost her head, and her head was used as talisman. Okay, because she was so enraged that the rage would scare away people, and that head was used to save Andromeda from being kidnapped. And some people even say Andromeda is kind of transformed or saved, that Andromeda was saved from being raped and Medusa Gorgon was not. But this touches on something very deep in society, which is innocence and our ability to preserve innocence. To preserve for the innocence, we need to believe testimonial of person. They need to be safe from that ever happening again. Okay, so, and essentially it was the female rage that would be used to save Andromeda and release her from being in captivity. Okay? The situation that the soul needed was that she is saved. Is not allowed to rape her, but unfortunately a man had to be witness. So there is something that we need to accept as society. Those monasteries of Medusa Gorgon are built underground. All of your real estate, all of the energy, okay, whether it's gas, whether it's oil, anything you derive from within the ground, but what's below, also above. And not only that, people thought mundanely Beta Per Se is denoting of bodies upon bodies. Why bodies upon bodies? If we don't believe the young girls that are raped by somebody's husband, somebody's boyfriend, somebody's son, okay, somebody's teacher, somebody's guru, and is like a god, okay, the person who raped her was like a god. It was not a person, it was a god. Then essentially there will be bodies upon bodies, because this is disrespect of a part of the feminine, the sexual energy, which is life energy that comprises. We disrespect life energy. And because we disrespect life energy, there's no life. So bodies upon bodies. And everywhere where the notion of humanity is still not accommodating for Medusa Gorgon, this is where we begin to connect with even more primordial goddess, which is Sedna. And Sedna was Inuit goddess, and her story was quite similar. Okay? She was a free woman. She was a free child, actually. And she did not want to wed because she didn't find a man she's free with. She knew inside that women need to be free, back to the Inuit, back to our very origins, that you need to be free, and both outside and both inside the relationship. And Inuit were not monogamous, because it's not about freedom in that sense. It's freedom to say yes, no, and maybe to sex. That's where the freedom. Okay, that's why she didn't want to marry, because of sexuality. And she preserved the life energy, but was not accommodated by her tribe. Okay, and the father didn't know, he was afraid when he would die, what would happen. So he tried to sell her to some man. This man also abused her. Then she tried to run to her father. Father cuts off her fingers. She drowns into the oceans, become the goddess of the animals of the sea. And then Inuit society lives by the sea. There's very cold places, so They rely only on fishing, nearly only fishing, and they have to appease Sedna to get food. Okay, so and indeed, this society, Inuit society, until today, highest suicide rates because of incest. Later, there's colonialism, there is this, there's that, but it's still the Sedna story still exists where we do not accommodate for the free child, for the free woman. We do not have a free man, and we do not have food because the man needs to be free in order to hunt. Hunting is very risky activity. Okay, we need to hold for Mars. What can hold for Mars if not the life energy? And if the life energy is violated, then Mars itself, penises fall down. Okay, it really is so. So any cult that would want to control for humanity would interfere in the sexual energy. And if we allow it to, if we accept it, if we victim blame, if we don't believe, if we do not accommodate for a free man, a free woman, if we think that this is too much, if we do not accommodate for that level of freedom, humanity collapses again and again and again in a cyclical form until people believe that this is our nature and this is our telos, which is not. But that entails that a woman whose husband she think was cheating on her because someone seduced him was actually forcibly even going there. And that entails that we understand that people that have been through sexual boundary violation, they bifurcate. Some of them avoid sex completely, some of them can try to use sex for power, okay? Or they try to cope with that with saying, okay, if they're going towards me, then I will say the sex that I want, the sex that I like I did with my psychologist. And then it still led to violence from him towards me because he disrespected what I like. Now, while this can be a lot of taboo, we cannot hold a civil society where there are so many monasteries of Beta per se, whether in Libya, underground, Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, okay, the moon of Netherlands, the soul of Israel, the currency, the digital currency of the WEF. The sadness stories, okay, that we cannot hold this society without understanding the myth, even if you're completely atheistic. Because the notion, medically, the notion of depleting yin and interfering in sexual energy, but depleting yin is a causing depletion of yang. And this is the medical. It means you won't have hard on, it means that your blood is polluted, it means that the liver not functioning. The liver is like the governor of the army in Chinese medicine. It's not functioning properly because there is imbalance. And if you would comply to believing that the sky punishes the land, sky never punishes the land. There's cyclicity of winter, the cyclicity of seasons that is necessary to preserve the trees. But this temperature and the extreme temperature is remediated by our behavior as human society. Technology can assist us to remediate temperature, but if we use the technology to purposefully create imbalances, that has a giant price for humanity. So this is where entire notion of what we see as respect, if it's dictated by those cults, then people would grow to believe that respect is something that is impossible to attain. So that, let's say, if someone is not monogamous in nature, they are respected to respect being with one person and so on. Or stories that are worse, like, like the Beta per se, that if a child, do you know that there are some Judaic Orthodox religions like the Gur Hasidis, where if a child is raped by male child, woman child, doesn't matter, raped by older person is because the child seduced the older person. Now, of course, it's go to expandable children and they create child assassins. This is something else, but this is because of ritual satanic abuse. And then if you listen to Anneke Lucas, yes, these children are programmed to do this. But we must abolish satanic ritual abuse, and the child is not to blame. But it comes so that when we have satanic ritual abuse, that these children will use to have power over adults because that would serve their survival. Like it is his nature. For Anneke Lucas, her handler saved her, and one of the movies she had to do was that she had weapons. She had to kill 2 old men. She was a child, so they ordered a movie with surprise factor. Old men think maybe they come to rape her, or I don't know, to kill her, to torture her, and then eventually she kills 2 old men. She had some weapon, and eventually her handler would release her. Okay, so you can think about how it's terrifying, but it's also a situation where a movie played out where she kills these 2 old men. But then they would want to get rid of the child assassins. Okay, so you think about when you don't know, and how is these child assassins created? They are raped and then electrocuted, and then they're programmed. So suddenly they would be offered love. Suddenly they would be offered good treatment. So they have all kinds of personalities. One personality that is loving, and so and so and so. And then it derives information, then it gives information to the handler. But you understand, when there is fragmentation, information will always be incorrect. Even Anneke Lucas herself did not know. Okay, until I watched the various testimonials and I connected the dots, she was not even fully aware that the politicians that she was given to extort were also expandable children grown. I attended to political assassination prevention, and I saw, okay, for Lars' testimonial that he was satanically ritual abused by Wilders and Rutte, and he saw that they were 2 satanically ritual abused, so they were basically the expandable children that didn't manage to kill. And it's true to all the political system, thanks to Trudy Verstegen, Mama versus Mafia on YouTube, we know that. So again, we cannot look at the beta per se. There's so many monasteries, so many currencies, so many people, secret societies worshiping this without understanding what is the true meaning. Why does she not actually need human sacrifice? Because this practice of expandable children is ancient. And those sacrifices were made for Baal and even for Beta per se, where in fact is the opposite of what the offering that we would offer Beta per se. The video I'm doing right now is like offering to Beta per se, okay, explaining the things that could avoid for rape, that could avoid for assassins, that could undo the 22. And that affects, because it's underneath the ground, that affects our natural resources, it also affects your housing. If you grew up in society where respect was that a woman agrees to be raped and that's it, or agrees to not say yes, no, maybe, or has to go in roundabout ways to please her husband and get her pleasure in a roundabout way, or has to extort, or depends, or will not be housed if she is alone, or will be mistreated if she is alone. You know what I can think today? What is the one man in society that lives humble, in leaders that lives humble, and said in Netherlands, the last taboo is for men to be living alone. Okay? That is Mark Rutte, who is now head of NATO. This growing military force that is facing the BRICS. It's not Putin, but it's actually the BRICS, and it's part of now World War. So we'd all have to appease Rutte now. He's not more or less harming of children than any of the other folks. and he's member of World Economic Forum. Okay, and I said what I said. When I looked at Schwab's chart, I said this is a person that was very likely not accommodated by society. He seems like this neurodivergent person that can be innovative. If you add to that the way that the people are inbred and they are tortured to be as monstrous as they can be, so much so that to access the joy, it comes with something that is sadistic, unfortunately. And sadistic or masochistic is the two sides of it. Sadistic is essentially masochistic because it's like the soul desires access to love and joy, and this is like the closest frequency that they can get to next to that. Because there's trauma to be purged. Okay, if we don't get now, NATO is not just Europe; it is Northern Africa. We have another monastery of Beta Per Se in Libya. So again, the way people worship or the way people give reverence or don't give reverence to Beta Per Se dictates for the fate of humanity. If you think that you need to give child assassins, eventually you will be assassinated by child assassins that will make a world war to recruit the next generation of child assassins. And ritual abuse and ritual murder and cannibalism, really horrid stuff, but they're horrid since the indigenous tribes. On the other hand, when we tend to the topic of recovery from sexual boundary violation, we understand that housing is needed, that wealth is needed, and so and so and so, then we're more supported by ideas, by access to things, by access to the resources that needed as society. If we understand that, if we think a person is imagining or is psychotic, then they need housing first, independent of ability to work, connection with nature of when they feel comfortable, respected their autonomy, the yes, no, and maybe, and to believe them and see that we're going to get to the essence of the story when they're able to speak. We can avoid world wars, we can avoid infiltration, we can avoid for all these things, and we keep the karma of the soil clear. In essence, there's no boots on ground, no invasion, no war, no perpetuation of these things. 7th October, they didn't listen to the female watchers, and then the war horrible, and it was human sacrifice. Muslim Brotherhood of Satan, that works together with the vaccines, with the Christian, satanic church that works together with the Vatican, and so on and so forth. It has nothing to do with Christ consciousness. Actually, you could appeal to Christ consciousness, to Archangel Michael, and that would be one of your tools. But again, also with Beta Per Se, all of your currency, the digital currencies on Beta Per Se, so many things are ALGOL associated. And if we just think she's this seductress woman who uses sexuality as power to manifest wealth but pays a price for it, we are stuck in archaic view of what the wealth that could actually be without thinking you have to pay a price for it. If we're stuck to think that woman who was raped was woman just disrespecting of herself sexually, then we will not understand it when the veterans speak, because they were also raped. We would not understand it when people that seem crazy say something because they were also raped. We would just won't believe anybody, and then who will tell us when there is invasion, when there is actual betrayal? But also, what is happening with betrayal is that people tend to betray when they've been betrayed, or when they interpret things or give them resources when they are out of certain resources. If we do not understand that something is such original betrayal to someone that they don't even have the resources to not betray, But did you know, for example, in the state of Israel, you do not have assisted suicide for mental health cases, nor housing first, nor can open dialogue, nor is open dialogue accessible if you don't have housing. How? And if a person disobey legal order, they would be drugged to death. This is what the pyramidal and extra pyramidals do. They cause heart palpitations. They cause abnormal nervous system behavior. They increase violent thoughts. Okay, they're basically being used to create child assassins and to create assassins in general. And then they say, oh, we will remove the myth that the crazy people are, or the people that have mental disability, it's not mental, they don't have housing, they're not being believed. So that's the case, okay? They don't have the food that is good for the nervous system. You know what they eat at hospitals? Mountains upon mountains of gluten, which is creating inflammation, which is the worst thing. It's all by design. And so, for the only way a person can get themselves to have death with dignity, if you jump from a train, yes, you may get killed, but you may not get killed. And then it's again for the same torture you go to. A system supposed to protect you. So, for the only way is if you pretend that you are what? A terrorist. And we had that. We had Sapir, that she actually was better off in the army because that was the only place where she found herself. And then she didn't have a place to go. Nobody was helping her. So she wore kafia and some toy gun that was looking like a real gun, and went to the religious sites where people care if you did that. And then she said, Allahu Akbar, waved the gun, then she was shot to death immediately. It was a welfare case. But that's Israel. This is what Rothschild founded here. So if you're jealous of our medical care and so on, just don't be jealous of, Mengeles twins and stuff like that. That's not what you aspire to. We do need medical care, but that's just not what's being received here mostly. Unless there's some other agenda, okay? And so, but the other way is if a person betrays the nation, because there is death penalty on betrayal of the nation. So we can understand how easy it was to recruit people for 7th October. All you have to do is take off the marginalized that are not supported by society, and people think that they are disrespectful. Okay? And that's what happens. That's all that happens. Because the women watchers, they were murdered. They wanted to warn. They were murdered. Raped and slaughtered. That's how we treat women. That's how Israel got invaded. Now they're still in war. It's over a year now. All of this could be avoided. Even if the entire world wants to off a tribe or to offer this, all of this could be avoided. And even so, there would be, people would at least know that there's something planned. And what about Gaza? We talked about it, right? The way that they would treat women. They still literally, even Bedouin tribes still literally slaughter women that don't want to marry. Geert Wilders is correct. He's not Hitler, he's not Nazi, he's just expendable child you didn't manage to kill. So all the things that you will find about all those names and other things will be exposed, very likely. But still, all the things you say are going on in Islam, is the Muslim Brotherhood of Satan that works with the same rubber bank that cuts dividends to the Vatican, that was ritual abusing Kim as well, we had to ritual abuse as well. But we cannot say that. Okay, what will he live from? Where would he be housed? attended to prevention of political assassination. So for the death threats, you see, a guy wearing green Adidas, using ALGOL symbolism, the power of tree, and so on, which is also ALGOL symbolism, threatening the facial parts, the tongue. What is that if not Muslim Brotherhood of Satan, which is the same cult? It's all the same cult. And for these cults, when they control society, do Sharia law, just like they want to do halakha law, it's the same. Or the laws of Christianity, it's just the same. It's the same. And they murder children that don't want to marry. They have child brides. So, and people, if people are not complying, okay, so they're crazy. What they say is crazy. This person is crazy, and the bodies cannot simply cannot comply because nature corrects for itself. Then they would lock these people up. They would treat those people. And Netherlands does this as well, unfortunately. Although all countries, okay, although they developed open dialogue. So they lock them up in either psychiatric hospital, but there is lock them up in apartments, in this and that. What eventually became of Gaza, it became an open air prison. All people were treated the way they were treating the women, the marginalized, and the crazy. Now, we don't want to continue to perpetuate that, but we have to, as humanity, change for our behavior so that we create something different. That there is plan to enslave humanity and create division and create this? Yes. How does it work? By interfering in the natural flow of sexual energy in such way that people would get justification for disrespecting their the yes, no, and maybe of others, which is rape, okay? Interference in the birthing process, like really harsh stuff, and then what interferes with cognition, because if you're already overflown, it's difficult. Okay, when I was during the Me Too era, it was very difficult for me to hear about men who were falsely accused, because you cannot contain this. It is by design. It's not because there aren't such men that were extorted and so on, so and so. It's because you are so overflown with the injustices we're done, it's so imbalanced that by design you balance the scale. That when we deal with this type of scale balancing rather than with actually advancing ourselves as humanity, actually creating technology that works with nature, not with fluoride. The best technology that works on fluoride is A-bombs. Okay, and those were the expandable children they didn't manage to kill, that created for these A-bombs with women contributors, because how are women treated? If she finds a man who treats her somewhat right, and that man happens to develop an A-bomb, so she supports his plan, his vision, what a woman to do, to support her man, what a man to do, to support his woman's dreams and visions. Nobody is perfect. And maybe it's better for humanity, but that one left the margins. Because people at the margins suffer, so perhaps something that okay, if we don't really radically change, then when Pluto will trine Aries, we will think about, okay, A-bomb that doesn't leave margins. So, because marginalized people suffer so much, and if you were marginalized in A-bomb, you were suffering, like it was horrid suffering, even if people survived. So we say, not leave margins. Kill everything and everyone, not leave margins. That could be the trine for Pluto Aries, in Aries. Because that was the person who was marginalized. Now, Sedna and ALGOL were marginalized. And that's the hidden, because they're not coming from a different tribe, they're not looking differently, which is also a form of, okay, people. I have a Facebook friend that had I don't even see much aesthetic problem. Maybe they have some hair on their body because of hormonal imbalance. But they're being mistreated everywhere. They were targeted individuals, had gone through horrid medical experiments. They've been mistreated everywhere because of the way the appearance. And then they would be developing hatred. So they wanted to change their gender to man and then were not sure and then wanted to marry men and abuse him on purpose. Just like the Moroccans did and to Ashkenazi Jews. Just like for the case, remember the case where I did the two gender symbol for water expands upon cooling. I was looking at Peter's, it was a woman, it was, I think it was it's not a car assassination. It was a woman that was killed for her ethnicity by immigrant, I think. Then I didn't know this thing exists until head of crime organization that wanted me to sleep with him for housing. Then he for drank first. It wasn't like that. Okay, I was looking for housing and so on. He saw me. He says, so we drank a cup of coffee and so on. We watch TV. There is lehava, which is basically they take away the Jewish women from being brides to Arab men in Israel. And he said to me that the people from his origin, okay, whether it's Morocco or it's Tunis or it's whatnot, then they were marrying Ashkenazi women who were anyway oppressed because they were born to incest cults, okay, on purpose in order to abuse them, to avenge for the oppression that they were experiencing. You know, this is something that when feminist women told me that, I say, nah, come on. But when a man tells me that they did this, wait, I'm recording. And this is fucking important. So now what my mama calls me is because we need to feed my cats at that apartment of this smuggler that sexually harassed me, because he has weird notions of respect where it's okay to ask a woman if she sleeps with her mother, and this is respectful. Okay? But underneath is very likely, underneath our city is very likely another monastery of Beta Persei. If people treat the Sedna story, now Sedna and Gemini housing for me, treat Beta Persei and Sedna as those women that were seductive, that were disrespectful, that were this, that were that. This is taking entire society down, so much so that you understand this destruction of entire humanity. So this is also important for people to understand about currency, and for people to understand about economy, and for people to understand about real estate, about housing and houses, okay? Because that's going to play a giant part in the reset. It's going to be the way you've been treating these women and men, that their testimonial, it's the way entire society will be and already treated. You think about the COVID shot, the medical gaslighting. This is what people, if you had to crisis and you went and you saw a psychiatrist or you were at hospital and you had a kinesia and they were being told it's not from the medicine, you already knew that. Or if you believe the people who saw this, your person is going through. I saw a woman that was denied medical help, almost died in a mental hospital because she had problems, side effects, that it was ruining her ability to poop, because it removes the contractions of muscles. So this is how you can die from heart attack but not even have sign that you died from heart attack. And they didn't want to take her to hospital because she could sue them. Entire family got involved. Fortunately, her daughters were there. The entire family had to get involved for her to be taken to hospital, had to fight with the doctors. And that's where the family can see the patient. And when there is family to see the patient. This is the right of public to know is more important in such case than privacy of patient. Because this is how people get killed. And if I don't say this testimonial, the right of public to know is more important legally than any secrecy, any whatever. This was done to people by real estate cartels as well. It's housing. That's how they take over the houses. But it's allowed when in society, when this is allowed, then when COVID comes in, if you tended to these people, if you believed to these people, they were going to violence, then you already knew. You already recognized the gaslighting. The first time a doctor told me that, I took the first COVID shot because there was a baby. And by the way, that baby was born in hour 5:55. Exactly. I don't say date, it doesn't matter, but it was 5:55. This is a symbol of change. That baby was born 5:55. I went to the mother, brought her some orange oil so that to ease on the birth. And then his brother would be defreezed later. This was IVF. So I took the shot because I said there's baby. I make so many medical experiments with the oils because I learned aromatherapy back then. So it's just another medical experiment, okay? And it affected my menstrual system. Then doctor says it's not because of the shot. Like I never had these issues. So I knew immediately this is medical warfare. This is gaslighting. I knew immediately. Some people did not even take the shot, okay? But I knew the first shot. But I knew medical gaslighting. I knew it because I knew it from psychiatry. Again, the way we treat the marginalized, the sick, the disabled, those we call crazy, those we don't understand what they're talking about, the way we treat them, if we treat them with dignity or not treat them with dignity, will dictate how we're treated as society. If we believe, because then when it happens to entire society, now everybody, where were you in COVID? Where were we? COVID? In COVID. Where were we in Hansa Medma? He was born in 1948, before State of Israel. Helped a woman. He was forcibly married to a woman that was a sex slave, a programmed sex slave. Then raped, the sperm taken from him, then castrated, then put in hospitals in the country that developed open dialogue, tortured in psychiatric hospitals. The Supreme Court judge was involved because he was also tortured and had to torture. Okay, Joris Deming. And I believed Hansa Medma, I can believe whoever the fuck I wanna. Then he was deprived of his nationality with the time that he applied. He was born in 1948, I remind you, applied for the UN, for the this, for the that, maybe. That's why UN dissolving. Then 15 Yuli, he had another, okay, for people began to recognize and so on. This was date where Peter de Vries, who worked with Demick, actually died. He was shot 9 days later, 6 Yuli. Shot by a drug cartel, but drug cartel, if we go back to the story of Baby Zin, which I told, the Baby Zin was put in jail by Demick. He was client of Demick for torture of children. And some people say it was instead of Demick that was suspect and so on and so on. So Peter would with this Demick, it was very easy to get Tachi to do it because otherwise where would he go? In jail for children? And there is, in criminal world, this code name, you don't hurt women, you don't hurt children. Unfortunately, it's not at all like this. Of course, drugs are used also. They're also used for people who have PTSD and just need the drug and that they provide the drug. But also used in other occasions, okay, for human trafficking and so on. And so he knew very well. Okay, he knew very well what's going to happen if he wouldn't do it. And all the things were leaked so that he will be able to do it. Okay, the Supreme Court leaked all information about the state witness. And it was 15 Yuli when Hansa Medma gets another accreditation, that Peter de Vries actually dies. After 9 days, being shot 5 times, 9 days stay in hospital. What he did 9 days in hospital, for the actual date was 15 July. If we knew about housing first, and that even curing schizophrenia is given housing first, independent of ability to work, as a person went to mental crisis for indefinite time, so they don't feel the pressure, okay, to comply with, let's say, organized crime or espionage or stuff like that, and we believe for the testimonial, none of this would happen. None of this would happen. Would Peter still be alive? I don't know. Would Joris Deming receive diplomatic immunity? Because he would deserve diplomatic immunity for his intelligence. And start to sing about what this Expendable Children project happens? Maybe. But at least if we know scientifically, and we know this by the ALGOL story, Medusa Gorgon was not believed, and she's talismanic protection of psychic attack. Why psychic attack? Because it's easier to attack people that were raped. It's easier to program them. And then they become programmers. So to curate from sexual boundary violation is to regain not only sanity, but also our world peace, our housing, our real estate, our relationships, and so on and so forth. It's not against the interest of anybody. That's the thing. And when we understand that about Beta per se, why is she talismanic against psychic attack? Why is she well talisman? To protect from negativity and to assert boundaries, okay? She is basically, as a talisman, assists for those people that would be going through her story to protect themselves. And this is where, this is where we really have to become aware of what is this thing that all of our currency, all of our real estate, because underneath the ground there's this Beta per se monasteries, how is she worshipped by these people? And when you reclaim your connection, okay, it doesn't have to be through working, it doesn't have to be through, I don't know, worshiping ALGOL. It can simply be through a knowing about housing first, curing schizophrenia, and believing the patient rather than not engaging with psychotic contact and drugging them to death, which caused them to be murderers, by the way. That's why they do that. And used for espionage. If you know how these things work, and you understand the simple principle that the way we treat the crazy in society is the way entire society would be treated, okay? Then you have a four, and you understand how that connects to those who worship Sedna, and with those who worship Beta per se, more so, and how this connects to architecture and the builders of our society in all ways, shape, and forms. Here, influencers are politicians, but also hidden decision makers. Where will the wealth go? Now you have four on these things, and you can raise awareness to these things, so that instead of dealing with this person is Moroccan, this person is Dutch, both of them expandable children, okay, or this person is woman, this person is man, this person is LGBT, this person is this, you would tend to the actual things that pertain to humanity, like attempts to enslave humanity, that everybody tells you, and people die over it. When Peter spoke against WHO, because he saw what's coming, okay, he said, oh, you have to pick the bigger battle. WHO is dangerous. These drug cartels, what can you do? Okay, which you can argue with that, and you need to argue with that, but he did speak up against WHO before he got assassinated, and then they blame it on the Moroccan. It's very simple, right? But even within Moroccan society, if the treatment to women and children was actually respectful, and people knew that if woman, it seems like she disrespects herself, this woman went through something, then it was very difficult to infiltrate even for their society. It plays on that masculine, for that notion of respect. Respect is respect. So that was a little bit of where we come into a Mercury day. Next 10 minutes would be Mercury. So this is, and look, we have here on a Mars 22, okay, murders, cold cases that are associated with real estate, with restaurants, with food, okay, but Sedna was basically murdered, and she drowned into the sea, and then people had to appease Sedna for food. And she was the marginalized, okay, with Mars ruling Aries here. Yeah, and Sun applying to Spica, so justice, and Procyon. And I will release this episode now in the Venus hour, before we go with calling on Hermes and his true teaching, being informed of trickery and true teaching. So have a good Hermes day, and I'll see you next video.